So who has the right to the land? A brief history of Israel and Palestine. The history starts in 1200 BC, after the late Bronze Age collapse and the invasion and pillaging by the Sieve people, a group of people who remain a mystery even today. Into this area, the Israelites move in and found Israel. In 957 BC, we see the first temple being built by the Israelites. In 722 BC, we see the invasion of the Assyrians. In 586 BC, we see the invasion of the Babylonians and the displacement of Israel. In 515 BC, we see the return of Israel and the building of the Second Temple. About 332 BC, we see Alexander the Great come and invade and take over. 63 BC, we see that the Romans came and took over, but Israel was still considered a vassal state at the time. Passing by the birth, life, and death of Christ, we go ahead and hit 70 AD. We see the destruction of the temple. 136 AD, the Romans, after a specifically brutal rebellion by the Jews, renamed the area of Judea Palestine as an insult to the Jews. In 343 AD, the Christians take over the Roman Empire. This is not a violent takeover, this is a conversion. 395 AD, the Romans split. 636 AD, the Muslims invade, forcibly converting the Christians and Jews to Islam, or killing them, or enslaving them, or running them off by force. So we see them as invaders, or as some people call them nowadays, colonizers. In 1099 AD, the Christians recapture Jerusalem and the surrounding areas, establishing the Crusader states. Until in 1291 AD, Mamluk Muslims invaded and took over the area, conquering it and forcibly converting the Christians and Jews back to Islam. 1517 AD, the Ottoman Empire invaded and conquered the region. 1918 AD, after World War I, the Christians took back over the region. This was taken by England. In 1948, AD is given back to the Jews, and Israel is reestablished. That leads us finally to today. So who has the right to the land? If we look at the Bible or the Torah, it is very clear that the Jews have the right to the land and they should own it. If you want to go with the return the land to the natives argument, well, the Jews are the natives of that area. They established Israel long before any of the other interested party groups even existed. If you want to go with the argument the right of the conqueror, well, the Christians were the ones who conquered it after World War I, and they gave it freely to the Jews. So the right would be, again, the Jews. If you want to argue who controlled the land the longest over the 3,323 years, we would see that the Christians owned it for 515 years. Islam has owned it for 1,090 years. The Jews have owned it for 1,411 years. And then the other groups throughout the time period have owned it for a grand total of 207. So the Jews, again, would win out in this case as well. If you're consistent with any form of logic, you end up with the same conclusion. The Jews have the right to the land, period.